Yeah, g'day folks. This is a job over on the west coast over near Geelong. A builder got in contact with me because he was wondering if I could fix up all these holes that were in the bed joints and the perps. They weren't discovered until after the job was completed. It was a big architecturally designed home, a reputable builder, good bricklayers, and a good brick cleaner. And this builder rang me up and said, what can we do to fix this up? And I said, well, there's not much you can do, mate, apart from drilling out each pit mark or each hole and going in, about 25 mil and using an 8 or 9 mil drill bit and then plugging them all up. He said, mate, it's all around the house, the whole house. And I said, well, that's the only thing I can think of, mate. So the bricks were laid well, the jointing was done well, the job was cleaned well, and all of this was discovered at the end. So that's a problem, and you don't want this happening in your jobs. So my advice is to look at your sand. Every time you get a delivery, you need to go and look at your sand and see what's happening with it. See if there's any lumps in it, see if there's any clay balls, see if there's stones, and start investigating and looking at your sand and your cement and your lime, making sure there's no hard parts of cement in your cement bags if they've been open for too long. You really should use fresh cement and fresh lime, because you don't want this sort of thing occurring on your job, because that's a hell of a fix. Could be tens of thousands of dollars to fix this one up. Yeah, so my suggestion is to go out and buy a food sieve that's got squares in it about 1.5 millimeters. Go out and buy a sieve, take it to work and put some sand in that every day or every time you get a new delivery, and just see what you can find in your sand. You have to look at the sand. Some of you might recognise this picture from a couple of other videos. That's exactly what I did there. It was a bag of yellow sand. I've talked about it in previous videos, and I found all these lumps, so I investigated further and found it was clay. It wasn't clay balls, but it was there was clay there and sand mixed together. So grab a sieve and look at your sand. Very important that you keep on top of this sort of stuff, because this can cost you a lot of money trying to fix up things like this. Big issue, especially at the end of a job. You need to be onto it. Just remember, guys, you make your mud, you produce it, you put it together every day. So you don't make the bricks, you don't have to worry about that. This is the stuff you make. Yeah, you've got to nail it every day. You don't want these problems. So we actually worked out between myself and the builder, who've been discussing with the brickie, that it wasn't balls of clay, but it was dry sand with a tiny bit of clay that was holding the sand together, and it was dry because it was summertime. So the sun had got to the sand and baked it and dried it, and then when the sand went into the mixer, it didn't mix long enough. It wasn't, and they didn't get all of the sand particles wet. So that has to happen. You need to make sure your mud's turning around for a good length of time in your mixer. You're not pulling it out too quick, because that's what we believe has happened here. Yeah, there was dry clumps of sand, which really wasn't discovered until the end of the job. I believe things like that could have been picked up if you're paying attention when you're buttering your bricks. Especially when you're buttering, maybe not so much when you're spreading, but when you're buttering, you should be able to feel dry clumps or stones. And if you do feel something in your mud, you should stop and look at it and find out what it is. Is it just a stone, or is it some clay, or what is it? What's going on? Is it dry sand that hasn't broken down in the mixer? Yeah. So this builder rang up and said, I've got this all around the house, the whole house. Every brick, every half a brick, I've got holes pitted in. Wasn't discovered until after the brick clean. And the brick cleaner hasn't caused this. So you need to check your sand and you need to check your cement. Make sure you're using fresh cement, not cement that's been sitting in an open bag, for 1 or 2 weeks. Same with your lime if you're using lime. So that's what I'm hoping to do with my YouTube channel is talk about mortar, and I'm wanting everybody to understand what can happen with your sand. And then we'll talk about cement, what can happen with your cement, what can go wrong. And lime and all of those things. Mixing time, covering up your sand. If it's summertime, maybe putting a tarp over it, keeping your sand damp is a good idea. That used to happen years ago when I was working in Victoria and in Queensland. Yeah, so for starters, get a sieve, check out your sand when it arrives. Good luck, fellas. Don't let this happen on your job.